Oh my God! This is why there's so many mother Trump-supporting, undocumented Honduran people too, okay? They just think that there is this idea of bad migrants and good migrants, okay? That's what they think. So they go, nah, I know my immediate relatives actually voted for Trump, and I'm undocumented, and I would have voted for him too. Because guess what? They're only deporting the bad migrants. You're a idiot. They already deport the bad migrants, okay?
Tom Homan, thank you so much for joining me. I want to ask with something that you said last night, that your deportation operation starts today. Did it?
Yeah, ISIS, they're out there enforcing law out today. And of course, as I've said numerous times, they're concentrating on public safety threats. That'll be our priority right out of the gate. So ICE officers are back to doing their job.
Where are these? Are they actual raids, and how is it different from what we saw yesterday or the day before?
Well, look, I wouldn't call them raids. They're target enforcement operations. They know exactly who they're looking for. They know pretty much where they'll find them. So again, these are well-planned operations. They're well investigated, so they have a lot of backup information when they go out there. A whole team goes out for officer safety concerns. So this happens throughout the nation. I mean, I'm not going to tell you specific locations out of officer safety concerns, but ICE is back doing their job effective today. They haven't been able to do it for 4 years.
Well, I'm going to follow up on that in 1 second, but who is ICE going after right now? I know that you and others said several times that it is the people who pose the biggest public safety threat to Americans who would be approached and deported first. Is that still the case?
Yes, people in the country illegally that have a criminal conviction that makes them a public safety threat. That's our priority.
How are you finding them?
Again, these ICE officers across the country have a non-detained docket. They know who these people are. When they don't show up in court, they fail to leave as ordered by an immigration judge, or they have, NCIC information on someone who was arrested for a violent crime here that's in the country illegally. They take those leads, they do investigative work, and through that work, try to find out where these people may be located. And that's the whole investigative piece they do before they go out and actually make.
Yeah, famously, the federal law enforcement authorities up until this very moment, and the local law enforcement authorities up until this very moment, refused to prosecute criminals when they were when they were undocumented. Like that's not what he's talking about. If you think that the violent crimes the undocumented migrants are committing are not being prosecuted and investigated, you are out of your fucking mind, okay? No, he's using that thing that already is happening, okay, in an effort to basically do dragnet operations and grab as many undocumented people as possible, because they understand that even at this stage, if they were to say everyone, that would, make people go, that's a little crazy. So they have to make it seem like they're doing something justifiable.
Make an arrest.
And so what is happening as we speak is limited to those with criminal records?
That's the target of this operation. But like I said many times, in places like sanctuary cities where we can't arrest the
good, deport undocumented immigrants that have committed crimes. How is that controversial? Oh my God. How many times do I have to repeat this? It's called marketing, okay? Even the dumbest hog understands this. Dumbest hog in power understands this. But for some reason, people who just retain this information, normal citizens like this chatter here, simply cannot comprehend that Tom Homan is lying in this situation, okay? The notion that there are millions of undocumented migrants that have committed heinous, violent crimes on U.S. soil and have not been prosecuted and have not been subsequently deported or are in perma jail now as a consequence of that is insane, okay? The reason why he's making it seem as though that is what they're going after is because it's much more marketable for him to say that instead of saying the truth, which is we are going to do dragnet operations in your neighborhoods. We're going to bust down doors and we're going to grab the abuela that works at the grocery store that you wave hi to every day. Okay? That doesn't eliminate the point being valid. I'm not validating all his points. I just think deporting criminals is a valid POV. Otherwise, arguing it is an invalid point if it's not what's actually going to happen and not what is. It's an invalid point because he's lying. How do you not understand this? The reason why it is an invalid point is because he makes it seem as though the current federal government does not prosecute criminals who are undocumented. If you believe that, you're a moron. Okay? That's it. Of course, he's not going to say we're just going to do dragnets and deport, forcibly put the otherwise law-abiding abuelas down the street from you into permanent jail. Okay, into a concentration camp. He's not going to say that because people are going to be like, that's a bridge too far for me. He has to justify it. And the way to justify it is by claiming that these guys have done heinous, violent crimes. Okay? And he has to further justify that by claiming that the previous administration did not prosecute undocumented immigrants who committed heinous, violent crimes. That's it. If you take everything he says at face value, you, as a dullard, will sit here and go, oh, well, this makes sense. I understand his other points might be invalid and not in good faith, but as Dems on the left, if our messaging is a counterattack, first of all, I don't care about the Democratic Party's messaging on this issue, and I don't care about what you think is the best possible way to go about it in terms of the optics, because you clearly are too stupid to understand what's already happening here anyway, okay? Dems on the left, our messaging is a counterattack on the premise that a majority of Americans agree. Okay, a majority of Americans agree that Jesus Christ is going to come back to earth in our lifetime. What do we do about it? Should we legislate accordingly? The f do you mean, dude? What a stupid position. If a majority of Americans believe that the only law of the land is the Christian law and we have to actually learn about Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior, in schools, are you going to say, well, a majority of Americans agree with it, so I guess that has to be the case? Politics is the art of the possible. Dude, I can't stand liberals, man. I cannot stand liberals. Like, they literally substitute being bad at politics with like some kind of adult way of interpreting the situation. Okay? Politics is the art of the possible, which is why we have to constantly cave and capitulate to the Republican framing on issues, no matter how insane it is, no matter how made up it is, because if we don't counter message against it, people start believing the Republican messaging on the issue. And then there are enough people that believe it. Well, then it must be true, I guess. If our messaging is a counterattack, a premise that the majority of Americans agree and believe in, we're going to continue to sink further in immigration polling, which, whether we agree or not, was a huge impact during the election alongside the economy. I'm going to die. The reason why a huge majority of Americans believe this falsehood is because the Democrats never communicated that it was a falsehood at all. They just showed their bellies. And worse, they actually solidified that this was a real issue. It was born out of real data by actively making their own exact same right-wing reactionary white nativist immigration, anti-immigration bills. Brilliant stuff, okay? Big words don't make you sound smart when your point is bad, law. I don't think I used any big words. I don't know if you're talking to the other chatter. What are the big words that I'm using here? Republicans have a starting position that is born out of a lie, okay? That's it. It's born out of a lie. The idea that undocumented migrants that come, and documented migrants too, by the way, this is not just undocumented migrants, so I got to stop saying that. Non-citizens, and that's the Customs and Border Patrol, Department of Homeland Security state, designation for this. Non-citizens are responsible for an unimaginable metric ton of crimes, okay? That's a lie. It is the exact opposite, as a matter of fact. They are responsible for less crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens. Okay? The reason why Republicans advance this position is for a multitude of different reasons, but many of which is just simply that they're racist. Okay? If the liberals, and the craziest part about this, by the way, isn't that like this was something that was unforeseeable. In the month of February, in the year 2021, okay, you got to lay off calling people morons when they approach you with counter arguments. If the counter argument is moronic, I'm going to say that it's a moronic counter argument. I'm sorry. If your counter argument is, well, a lot of people believe this dumb shit, and I haven't really examined whether or not there is any veracity to it, and I just think that when a decent number of people believe in a complete falsehood, then we just have to act like that complete falsehood is the truth, then you're a moron. You know? I'm sorry that it hurts your feelings, dude. What are you talking about? I'm sorry, I'm a bot, and you have to treat me like a special little flower in the chat. My feelings will be hurt if you don't do that. This also goes back to the American entitlement, okay? The American entitlement, American exceptionism, and American individualism, and the American entitlement that, like, I came up with this idea, and it's a brilliant idea, so you have to take it seriously. Me. You are an entitled American, dude. Racist. People from all countries come to Mexico to gain access to the USA, skirting the law, says MJ Plays. You are an entitled American, dude. I am. Okay, I am an entitled American. Exactly. So you have to listen to me now, okay? Instead of other, at least I'm an entitled American who understands what the is going on, rather than an entitled American who's a dumbass, who's going around being like, me. Hasan, please see the truth. People from all countries come to Mexico to gain access to the USA, skirting the law, okay? First and foremost, the law is restrictive. Okay, specifically designed to make sure that people come in illegally, or in many instances legally come in, but they want to deport those people as well, for the record, and they are working to deport those people as well, or take away their immigration status. That's number one. Number two, the normal process of coming into the United States of America, especially from a Latin American country, especially from a South American country, is unimaginably long and virtually impossible, especially if you don't have a lot of money. Okay? So that is precisely the reason why people do this thing where they seek asylum, which is legal. Okay? Seeking asylum is a legal process. And many of those people who are going through the legal process of seeking asylum in the United States of America that actually had their CBP-1 applications that were supposed to be today, when they were supposed to have their interviews yesterday, got the application shut down. So you're actually shutting down legal migration as well. Okay? I empathize with real asylum seekers, but we are allowing criminals in without due diligence. You don't know what you are talking about. If you think that the CBP-1 application does not actually have any sort of background checks, you're just wrong. And not only are you wrong, but you are fantasizing about a reality that you came up with that no, plenty of real criminals are actually skirting the system. Okay? I'm sorry. I can't entertain the silliness in the chat if that's your take. Who do we contact to confirm the background check? The dictators? Yes, they call up Maduro personally. The dictators. Do you think that that's what you're implying? No, I'm not implying that because I'm not a moron. Do you think that the Customs and Border Patrol is actually woke and the Department of Homeland Security is actually woke and they're wokely saying, even if someone is of a criminal background, even if someone has a criminal background, let's not investigate that. Let's just let them all in. Is that what you think is going on? Also, if that's the case, you probably assume, and it's not false, that a ton of undocumented migrants came into the United States in the last 4 years of the Biden administration. So why did they not amount to an unimaginable, why did they not cause an unimaginable sea of extra crimes that took place in the process? Or do you think they did, and the quote unquote woke law enforcement officials in every state, in every locality, actually secretly were all tasked with hiding this truth and simply did not arrest them? Or when they did arrest them and they realized that they were undocumented migrants, they let them go? Because in terms of the murder rate, for example, it's gone down in the process of unlimited migration into the United States of America. Perhaps it's because undocumented migrants, at least if you look at the data, are responsible for significantly lower percentages of crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens. Hasan, I don't want you to be killed by a migrant. Please stop. What? Dude, you are just brain dead if you think that any random migrant person that you see is a murderer, okay? I don't know if you're trolling or if you're just a racist moron. What the I live in Los Angeles, okay? The do you mean? I don't want you to get killed by a shut up. Oh, I'm trolling a little bit. Oh. Country is 330 million people. 29 murders by undocumented migrants last year. 29. Yeah, we're really going to put a dent. We're really going to put a dent in that murder rate by doing mass deportation and concentration camps for 20 million people.
Bad person in the jail. We would like to have access to the jail to arrest a criminal alien in the safety and security of a county jail, which is safer for the community, safer for the officers, safer for the...
It's crazy seeing certain sex workers become MAGA over the past couple of years. Jesus Christ. Dude, what are you talking about? It's clout. People don't give a shit. They just want to... One, everyone is susceptible to the same kind of brain rot. Okay? That's number one. And number two, people are very clout obsessed and want to make money and think this is a better way to generate attention. And then people will come and jerk off to their photos that way. I know this, you know, I've seen it. I've seen it happen. Much more popular sex workers than Miss Gibbs' fake sister have actually successfully done this in the past and still continue to do so.
The alien. But when you release a public safety threat out of a sanctuary jail and won't give us access to him, that means we got to go to the neighborhood and find him. And we will find him. But when we find him, he may be with others. Others that don't have a criminal conviction but are in the country illegally. They will be arrested too, because we're not going to strike, and this is a difference between the last administration and this administration. ICE is going to enforce the immigration law. There's nothing in the INA, the Immigration Nationality Act, says you got to be convicted of a serious crime in order to be removed from this country. So there's going to be more collateral arrests in sanctuary cities because they forced us to go in the community and find the guy we're looking for.
Let me just make sure that I understand what you're saying, because at first you said that the first targets are those with criminal records, but you are also saying that those who are undocumented in the U.S., also who don't have criminal records, people who are working in their communities, maybe even have spouses who are American citizens, they could be swept up with ICE today as well?
What I'm telling you is when we go find our priority target, which is a criminal alien, if he's with others in the United States illegally, we're going to take enforcement action against him. We're going to...
That's called a dragnet, dude. That's what he's saying. You know, Israel style. Some real where's daddy shit. He said collateral arrest. Yeah. This has nothing to do with apprehending criminal migrants who have done violent crimes, okay? It's not. The current system already prosecutes anyone who has committed a crime on U.S. soil. Now, police are notoriously incompetent, but they're incompetent when it's an American citizen that commits a crime or when it's an undocumented migrant that commits a crime. They're incompetent across the board. That's why their clearance rate for murders is 57%. If you were to tell me we have to make the police more competent, we have to ensure that we have better detectives, we have to have higher standards for policing, I'm there with you, okay? But if you look at that situation and you say, no, I'm imagining that all of the unsolved murders are done by undocumented migrants, even though the solved murder ratio doesn't actually make any sense whatsoever, considering that undocumented migrants or non-citizens in general, undocumented and documented migrants, are responsible for 1% of the homicide and manslaughter rate, but 100% of the unsolved homicide and manslaughter rate. You're out of your mind.
On a forced immigration law.
What happens then? So the ICE officers gets an individual or a set of individuals and apprehends them. What next?
Another fact that I must remind people is that 1 out of every 15 household in this nation with 330 million people has at least one parent that is not documented. 1 out of 15 household. Okay? 1 out of every 15 household in this country is a mixed status household, a mixed immigration status household. 1 out of 15. That means there's a high likelihood that at least one house down the street from you is going to be getting this door knocking operation.
What do these ICE officers do with them? Because in some cases, and you know this far better than I, they haven't been deported in the past because their country of origin won't take them.
Well, what happens after arrest? They're taken to an ICE office and they're processed and put in detention. While they're in detention, ICE officers work on.
That's what the voters want? No, dude. The voters never know what they want until they get it. Okay. What is this? You said that's kind of racist? Yeah, 1 in 15 homes is mixed status home. That's not a kind of racist take. That's just the truth. I don't know why you would try to cynically say, oh, kind of racist. Doing the classic, oh, if you're noticing racism, you're the real racist type nonsense. That's what the voters want, is also an idiotic argument. Okay? Because since we saw what happened when the Republican Party advanced this agenda through the Supreme Court to, to overturn Roe v. Wade after lying to the American public, the voters very quickly found out after the implementation of said restrictions that they didn't want that, even people who had actually previously voted for it. Okay? You'll see what the voters actually want. You precogged Fetterman party switch for sure? Oh, yeah, no, it's going to, yeah, I already, yeah. I told you that John Fetterman is going to switch parties. Is this guy trying to give an interview while actively being victim to a stroke? I mean, yeah, he is. He's a Harkonnen.
On travel documents, the host country sends travel documents saying, yeah, this is our citizen, this is our national. Then we make flight arrangements. So they could be in detention from a few days for a few weeks until that removal was made happen.
What if the host country doesn't want them, as has happened in the recent past?
We have various plans. We have various plans. Other countries are willing to take them. We have third safe country removals. So that's something we're working through. But I think you're going to see less of the recalcitrant countries. Countries won't take their citizens back under this president, because this president has vowed that these countries will take them back. So I'll leave that up to the White House. But there will be negotiations with those countries who are pushing back on recalcitrancy, and they will be removed.
You know, I think that there is some kind of image that people might have, given how much we heard President Trump and you in the months during the campaign, and certainly during the transition, talking about what's going to happen, of people being rounded up, loaded on buses, and dropping them off.
Yeah, this is where, look, this is why I said this doesn't happen overnight, okay? First, you actively dehumanize, and you say there's a real good reason for why we got to do mass deportations. It's just mass deportation. It's just criminals. Okay, maybe it's not just criminals. It's all undocumented migrants. Okay, maybe it's some documented migrants as well as the undocumented migrants. Okay, but we have to do it. We have to do it because they're violent. We have to do it because they're invading the country. We have to do it because they're collaborating with the cartels. They're doing terrorism. Okay, then you have to set up these facilities. The facilities are going to be to begin with, because obviously these are the people that you're rounding up and putting in this concentrated area are already now officially considered undesirables. Okay. You put them in these facilities. It's already too expensive of a process to begin with. There's a lot of legal hurdles to clear under international law. Maybe you can't deport some of the people. Okay. And also the maintenance of these facilities that are going to be in dire conditions are going to start, leading to some suspicious, mysterious deaths left and right. And in that process, you have a choice to make. Either you enslave them in permanent detention and you force them to do backbreaking labor, okay? Or you just kill them. And that's how you arrive at the final solution. This process will take many years, usually, okay? But that's how you get to death camps. That's how you get to the final solution. Based. Okay, dude, sick. Dude, I'm going to tell you right now, when you hear something like that and you say based, that doesn't, your life is still awful. You know that, right? Deporting 20 million migrants is not going to make you a more person, okay? Your crush is still never going to talk to you. You're still a pathetic loser, and your family most likely is embarrassed, and that's why they don't tell you when they're having family gatherings. You assuming that cruelty that others are going to be subjected to is going to somehow elevate your status in society is a lie, okay? Fix your own damn self instead of fantasizing about the state enforcing violent mechanisms against those who are more marginalized than you are, okay? It is precisely that problem that causes you to further and further latch on to right-wing politics. It's so sad and so pathetic. Bro's pushing the envelope with hypotheticals today. You think it's I'm pushing the envelope with hypotheticals? It's not even a hypothetical. This is what I suspect will happen by telling you what has happened throughout history. Okay, it's happened in American history, and it certainly has happened in German history as well, and in identical ways too.
On the border, is that how you see this happening?
Well, I don't like the analogy of rounding up. Look, again, this is a targeted enforcement operation. The president's been clear on this. We're going to concentrate on public safety threats. But in sanctuary cities, where they don't let us take that public safety threat into custody in the safety and security of a jail, we have to go find him. If he's with others in the country illegally, ICE will not turn the blind eye to that. ICE is going to uphold the oath they took. They're going to enforce the laws enacted by Congress and signed by a president. And they're going to do that without apology. I mean, if sanctuary cities force us in this position, that's exactly what's going to happen.
How many deportations do you think that you can carry out this year? Last year, for example, the Biden administration did deport about 270,000 people, which is the most since 2014. I know you said ICE has not been doing its job, but there have been a lot of deportations? What's going to happen coming up?
Yeah, that don't count. That don't count, Dana. Yeah. By the way, previous deporter-in-chief, Barack Obama. Second deporter-in-chief, Joe Biden.
That is not accurate. The Biden administration is hiding the numbers. If you look at those removal numbers, over 80% were Border Patrol apprehensions on the border that were immediately removed. They weren't ICE removals. So if you look at what ICE has done in
they don't count. They don't count those. The more valuable ones are people that have been living inside of U.S. soil for 10 plus years, that have been working a job. That's the real valuable people that must be removed. Those weren't impactful enough. Those weren't violent enough. Those weren't psychotic enough.
The United States, under 4 years of President Biden, they have the lowest numbers of removals in the history of the agency, despite a historic illegal crisis on the southern border. So they can claim 240,000, whatever removals.
He didn't say that. Oh, he said criminals. Yeah, you do understand. I hope you recognize that he's not actually talking about criminals, or in his mind, he could be simply saying, well, you crossed the border illegally, you're a criminal. Now, not all crimes are equal, okay? And if you understand, here's what I'm saying. If you're illegal, caught up with criminals, then sorry, you know? Wait, what? Are you fantasizing about a thing that is not happening, where you're just like, dude, where does this come from? Why is there no due process? Why? If you're illegal and with illegal criminals okay, so you got a 14-year-old, okay, who's in a house. There's another guy there, okay, an immediate family relative. The guy has a parking ticket, okay? They bust down the door. They nab both of these guys, the 14-year-old and the adult. That's good for you? That's a good, bye-bye? Valid? Is that what you're saying? I don't think they're going after parking offenders. No, you don't think that. You don't think much, okay? They're not even going after parking offenders. They're going after everyone. I think they're going to probably go after real criminals, my G. No, dude, you're just oh my God! This is why there's so many Trump-supporting, undocumented Honduran people too, okay? They just think that there is this idea of bad migrants and good migrants, okay? That's what they think. So they go, nah, I know my immediate relatives actually voted for Trump, and I'm undocumented, and I would have voted for him too. Because guess what? They're only deporting the bad migrants. You're a idiot. They already deport the bad migrants, okay? God damn. What the are we doing? You think when an undocumented migrant does like a rape or a crime or a DUI or something heinous, that they just get away with it? Are you that stupid? Really, please, what is going on, man? Oh, I swear since the inauguration, people have managed to get dumber even record time. No, it's because all the stupid hogs are now no longer embarrassed to be dumb in broad daylight, because they got Big Dumbo over there and his cadre of Harkonnen-style villains all over mainstream media preaching. So they think, okay, I'm galvanized. I'm emboldened. America's back on track, baby. It's so frustrating Because I also hate the elitist, entitled liberals who operate with the same violence in mind anyway. But a lot of these guys don't understand that. They think, oh, this is just team sports. Get wrecked, libtard. We own you. I wonder how many times you will have the same argument today. I will be having the same argument every single day as we're watching like random, otherwise law-abiding, documented and undocumented non-citizens get rounded up and put into concentration camps. I'll be like, that person was simply just a person who picks crops, okay? That person is responsible for the tomatoes that arrive at your fucking table, okay? Right now, that person is getting rounded, and they'll be like, nah, I imagine a fantasy where that person actually is a drug dealer and maybe even raped and executed multiple children, multiple children in an orphanage, so I think it's valid. Slave argument, ZZZ. Okay, brilliant minds, dude. Brilliant. Yeah, I'm not saying that person should remain undocumented. I'm saying that that person should be documented. Okay? So they can also, alongside the rest of the documented labor force, advocate for better wages in a unionized work structure. That is the major difference here. I understand that having two tiers of labor and a permanent underclass that is constantly replenished by global south migration after those countries have been destabilized by us or eviscerated by climate change is always going to depress the wages across the board. I understand that. I recognize that. My solution to that problem isn't to deport 20 million people in the most violent ways possible and assume that someone will fill these roles, okay? My solution is that they're already working here. They already provide for America in a very meaningful fashion, and therefore they should be processed and documented.
That's simply not the fact. And under the Trump administration, were there fewer removals? Yes. And why was that? Because we secured the border. We weren't releasing millions of people in the United States to have to go find and remove. So it doesn't matter how many people were deported, it's how many people were released in this country, and millions were released into this country by the Biden administration that were not released by the Trump administration.
I just want to be clear. I'm not obviously getting these numbers out of thin air. They are coming from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency. You're saying that they're giving us false information?
The numbers are accurate. I'm talking, where do those removals come from? And they're not interior ICE removals. 80% of those removals were arrested by Border Patrol. So ICE didn't make the arrest, Border Patrol did, and they were removed by ICE on the southern border.
Understood. You told my colleague Caitlin Collins in December that you didn't know how many people you're going to depart because you didn't know the resources that you would have. How much money do you, and I understand that you've been in this job now for a matter of hours, but you've been working on it ahead of time for a long time. Do you know how much money you're going to need from Congress to carry this out?
Look, I've been working with members of Congress, and the whole team's been working on to come up with a number that makes sense. But like I've said many times, we're going to use whatever money we have and do the most efficient operation we can. The more money we have, the more we can do. And I think this election proves that the American people support the removals of criminal aliens in this country. So I'm looking for Congress to come through and give us the budget we need.
One of the president's executive orders suspends
hundreds of billions for a problem that doesn't exist, that will actually, in the implementation of this quote unquote solution for the problem that doesn't exist, will cause infinitely more problems, by the way. I rarely ever talk about the New York Times style approach to the subject matter, where I talk about the, I feel like it's selfish and silly to talk about the economic impact of mass deportations, because I think that I am more invested in the immediate violence and the cruelty of the matter. But it's also an incredibly stupid thing to do for the American economy. Okay? The overwhelming majority of our agribusiness is undocumented migrants. Okay? Migrant workers are at the heart of American agriculture. That's number one. A quarter of the construction business are migrant workers. But then again, Trump clearly doesn't care about construction despite being a real estate developer, because he's now talking about implementing 25% tariffs on Canada, where the overwhelming majority of our lumber comes from. So clearly he doesn't care about any of this at all. He does not care about the economic impact at all. Trump's not live yet, is he? Why are people saying he's live already?
The U.S. refugee program, and that action could leave about 2,000 Afghans in limbo who were previously approved to resettle in the U.S., and that includes families of U.S. service members. Why shouldn't those people be allowed to come in the U.S. and stay as refugees?
Look, we need to secure the border. We need to stop the bleeding, right? We can keep bailing the water out of the boat, but we got to plug those holes. So right now, it's all about securing this nation, securing the border, and we'll address that in the coming days. But right now, we're going to shut that border down and get a hold of this problem. What's happening on our border is the biggest national security vulnerability I've seen in my career, and I've got over 35 years doing this. We need to take action to secure the border, and we'll discuss the other policies down the road. But right now, it's all about securing the border and saving lives.
So I just want to, again, make sure I understand this, because this is all new and very, very important with regard to the Afghan refugees, that it was a blanket executive order, but perhaps it could be amended or specific groups of people could be addressed as you get your arms around this?
No, the order stands as is, but there's a lot of work that needs to be done. We know that a lot of these refugees weren't properly vetted. There are things we need to fix.
See, a lot of these refugees weren't properly vetted. Another lie. Now they're talking about documented migrants, people who have come in here with refugee status. Now they are talking about removing people who already have the proper documentation. TPS for Venezuelans and Haitians, for example. Okay. And many other people that have come into this country under special status, special clearance, that are documented. Now, why would you also remove people who are documented migrants? Interesting. Why is Donald Trump trying to go against the Constitution and take away the naturalization of people who are born into mixed status households? Maybe one parent is documented, maybe one parent is a tourist, or maybe one parent is documented and another parent is in the process of getting their visa or in the process of getting their citizenship, and then the child is born on U.S. soil. Donald Trump no longer thinks that you should be considered as an American citizen. That is protected by the Constitution. Why, oh, why? Do we have an issue with space in this country? We do not, just so you know. Is there a finite pool of labor that's readily available? No, that is also wrong. There is no lump sum of labor. There is no finite amount of labor, because guess what? When there are more people, there is more need for teachers, trainers. There is more need for construction workers. So there is technically no lump sum of labor. However, when you have a two-tier labor structure, you can permanently lower the wages of everyone by constantly hedging against the existing documented labor pool with migrant workers that you can exploit. It is perhaps the most un-American thing on the planet to just assume that we've had enough. And this is a nation, for all of its evil actions in its inception and all of the awful things that has continued throughout American history, the one good thing about America that has caused the United States of America to consistently avoid the same trap that every developed nation has fallen into is permanent migration.